afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Sports. We had some audio problems, and we just worked those out. I'm Sergeant Rock. That's Joseph. We're still having audio problems. That's Michael Cox. Joe Stovall should be here shortly. Here's some of the things we're going to be talking about this week. You know, we started talking about this last week, and it blew up real big this week, and that's Ray Rice. He apologized for his domestic incident last week. Of course, you know, he got, 2 games suspension. Roger Goodell, he defends the game suspension. Also, ESPN's Stephen A. Smith, he got suspended for a week for comments he made about domestic violence. And Whoopi Goldberg of The View, she came to his defense. We're going to discuss all that coming up on this edition. Also, Derrick Rose, he acknowledged the tension between team management and his inner circle. We'll discuss that. And the Cardinals pick up John Lackey from Boston and Justin Masterson from Cleveland. A couple of pretty decent pitchers. We got all that and more coming up on this edition of Talking Sports. You be sure to stay tuned.
Talking Sports, WBCP 1580, UPTV, Channel 6, Uverse, Chinese Cable, 379, right after Manchester Ping Pong. I just had to.
Okay.
You're not here previewing your show. You're like, coming up.
I understand.
You'd have felt good about that, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would have.
International love. Did you get that shirt from the governor? You know, last week we were graced by the presence.
Another man.
Is it Patrick? Patrick Quinn? Pat Quinn? Pat Quinn.
That just sound personal.
The governor of Illinois stopped by, did an interview. And he had a chance to hang out with the folks here Talking Sports. Took some pictures. Bundy got a selfie. Security was a little nervous.
I'm sure.
I think the security was nervous, and let me make sure I say this the right way. I want to lay blame.
This is Joe Stovall speaking.
Right. But we were having a conversation on the side of the studio while the governor was in here doing his interview with Imani. Our leader, our faithful leader, brought up apple pie moonshine.
Yes, I did.
And we started having a in-depth discussion on moonshine.
Yep.
And I made mention about, you know, moonshine and eggnog and
your past.
My past. And Bundy said that must have been some real fun Christmas parties. I said they sure were. And he said, how old were you? And I said 9. And the security guard just lost it.
The tall one.
Yeah,
tall one.
He just lost it. That tells you right there. They are human.
Yes, they are.
You know, people try to treat them like they're some
badasses.
Right. He just lost it. And that's when I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
if we can make...
He had a straight face for most...
he was standing there all stoic and...
stiff. Ready for action.
Tried to be like the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, but when he heard about 9-year-olds drinking moonshine, he just kind of lost it. Not to say that really happened.
You were just telling a story.
That's all. And you know how when we tell stories, we embellish just a little bit.
Yeah,
we had a good time last Friday.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Pictures available on Facebook if you'd like to.
Yeah.
Get a gander of what went on that day.
But it was a great time, and you know, as Bundy asked the question, have you ever had somebody of that level of whether it be government or, you know, maybe a CEO of a company or something like that, kind of be in your presence before?
Just you?
That's called quantum leap.
Whatever, you're the only one. Actually, I did see Gerald R. Ford when he spoke over Centennial High School back in the 70s.
Did he fall before he spoke, or?
No, he made it up the stage and everything.
You know, that was one of those things that how one thing happens to somebody and then it just becomes a running joke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, forever. You know, no handles.
He's not gonna let that duck go.
No, and he sent me something. I'll tell you off the air.
His Christmas gift.
Right.
little early for that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right in the head.
shop early, shop often.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess we, as usual, start the show off just
Run off at the mouth.
coming around the corner, moonshine flying off the back of the truck.
You know, I have been in the presence of some 3- and 4-star generals.
Have you?
Yeah.
I mean, did you shake hands with them, or did they just kind of walk by as you were standing there giving it to them?
Well,
The salute.
the 3-star, I didn't even know.
Oh, not giving it to them.
I didn't even know he was there.
Oh, now, come on. You didn't know he was there?
Didn't even know he was there.
Just kind of walked up on you?
Yeah, I was doing a job, smoking a cig, and
And cleaned out the latrine?
doing my job.
Peeling the potatoes.
Stood up and turned around, and there he was.
Now, are you, the more I listen to your war stories, the more I get an image of a Beetle Bailey.
No, it wasn't nothing like
You
that.
wasn't like that?
I thought I went from sergeant to private right then and there, because he went to talking about how you doing this, that. Now, I still had a cigarette in my mouth. That was the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, Cox knows what I'm talking about. I still had a cigarette. So I finally slowly took it out, and, went on, gave the salute, went on with the conversation. And eventually he said, carry on. So I turned around and carried on,
Right.
and I saw my career flash between my eyes, before mine.
But, as I said earlier, they're people too.
Yes, there.
I think sometimes, when you get superior officers or people in high-ranking positions, you're given the respect to the position, but you sometimes forget that's just another human being in that position. And a lot of times, and as you saw last week, and obviously he's a politician, and he's just kind of, trying to do his thing for the upcoming election. But you saw Governor Quinn doing his best to be
Cordial.
casual,
One of the guys.
right. And it's tough because you're going to be judged when you're at that level. You're going to be judged either way. If you try to be casual, then people are, oh, he's just
Damned if you do.
damned if you do. That's it.
Look at the way they treating President Obama. There's an individual who can't do nothing right.
Yeah, and that's really more of how polarized our country has become. Where it used to be, you could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, but you also could cross the aisle, shake hands.
Get along with everybody.
Right, but now it's almost for lack of a better analogy, a gang mentality, us against them. You cannot like anything that the other side does because in fear of retribution from your own. And I think the other thing is, I think guys more or less are trying to protect their jobs, guys and gals who are in, whether they're in the Senate, in Congress, etc. If you're on the opposite side of the aisle today,
We got to go along with what everybody else is doing, or else.
yeah. And it's about keeping your job because you want to be able to go back home. And if your constituency doesn't like the president, you can't like him either.
There you go.
If you want to keep your job,
At least not admitted.
bro, that's true. That's it.
But a lot of people act like this is just not happening. Well, it's mainly because it's just not coming to the forefront because President Obama is African American and this that. But this has been going on since day one.
Certain old white people said when he was elected in November the original year, it is our goal to never do anything he wants done.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell.
Before he even took the oath of office. And Mitch McConnell's from Kentucky. I don't know.
Yep. And I think today, we also live in the world in terms of labels. And I think it'll be the perfect segue going into talking sports. But, we're quick to label liberal, conservative. We're quick to call somebody a socialist or fascist. We're quick to put because they may have like an idea that doesn't follow the norm
Right.
of what we've been accustomed to. I think the funniest thing I've seen is how they've changed. Instead of calling somebody rich, you know, conservatives call them job creators. You know, I'm like, well, that's how they got rich.
Well, you got to tone it down some.
Right, but it's always trying to create some buzzword or label that either is, you know, pandering towards constituents or making people angry. You know, and I think what it has done on the common denominator of whether you're Democrat or Republican, it's turned most people off. People don't even want to participate anymore because they see how bad this stuff has become, and you know,
only in America.
Yeah, and if you think about it, going into what we're going to talk about today on Talking Sports, BCP 1580, the NFL is kind of dealing with a firestorm of their own on the area of domestic abuse and punishment.
Right. You know, Ray Rice, he was given a 2-game suspension for beating up his then fiance and now wife. A lot of people have came out against him, including, since wasn't that Wednesday he apologized, came forward and said getting arrested was the worst thing that ever happened to him in his life. He came forth and apologized to his wife and to his child, to the NFL, to everyone basically. And then Stephen A. Smith, ESPN, made a statement, I think it was
about a week ago.
About how some women should not be forcing a spouse and or boyfriend to hit them. Now, a co-worker,
Michelle Beadle,
came forth and said what he said was wrong. Stephen A. Smith admitted the next day or a couple of days afterwards that he was wrong for saying what he said. He apologized.
A couple times.
And he was suspended?
And then ESPN a couple of days later suspended him from his job for making a statement. Whatever happened to free speech?
Well,
not freedom. But I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway, to go back to the subject. Then Whoopi Goldberg on The View a couple of days ago, she came out in defense of Stephen A. Smith about saying that what he basically said was true. That there are some women who would banter, can we use that word, and carry on and more or less force, and I'm not saying it's correct, but force said spouse or boyfriend to hit them. Now this has all happened within, 7 days? Now we started talking about this last Friday, about how a 2-day suspension was not worse than the 4-game suspension you would get for smoking a joint. Joseph?
Well, I think starting with the apology that Ray Rice gave yesterday, it was sincere, it was heartfelt, it was necessary, because too many people around the subject talked about what should happen, but the people involved you hadn't heard from them. So, you know, first of all, as I said earlier, it was necessary for Ray Rice to speak. And what I really appreciated about his statement was that he talked about, you know, being raised by a single mother, about the fact that he's known his wife since high school. He attributed no wrongdoing to her. He took full responsibility for the incident. He talked about the fact that he's in counseling. So he was very open and direct. He didn't deflect any questions. The only thing he didn't do, which I think was also correct, is when they asked him what happened on that night in the elevator, and he said he did not want to answer that. He didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
And I think that was the smartest thing out of this whole deal, because now we get stuck on their particular situation as opposed to focusing on two areas. The arena of, number one, of domestic violence, which is a big thing here in the United States and needs to be addressed, and the way punishment is doled out by the NFL. And I think, going to the Stephen A. Smith commentary, the reason why Stephen A. Smith was suspended, and I think we just talked about in terms of our lead up to the show, our country has become very polarized. And you made the comment, what happened to freedom of speech? Well, you two military men know freedom ain't free.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about a corporation like Disney, which owns ESPN, I think we've talked about this for many years. It's all about money. And if you're offending a part of your customer base by something as, you bring a Stephen A. Smith on and you want him to be a shock jock. You want him to be controversial.
He's always been vocal.
Right.
No matter what the subject is.
But when he's to the point of being vocal, where a large portion of your listening and viewing audience says, wait a minute, and that's the result. He has to be suspended.
But what did he say was wrong, Joe?
Well, the thing that he said, and he talks about it in his apology, is when he talked about provocation or provoking a man. And I think one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is not blaming the victim. And all three of us know there's a different generational issue here that we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue we're dealing with going to what Whoopi Goldberg talked about is chivalry. Meaning, we were raised, you never touch a woman.
Yeah.
No matter, zero tolerance, no matter what she says, no matter what she does to you, never hit a woman. Case closed. We know of specific incidents where you've seen a woman, get in a man's face, yell at him, hit him, go over the line. But it doesn't condone the response. And I don't think anybody in our society will accept that response, especially if a man talks about it. Now, Whoopi Goldberg, a woman, and a very prominent woman in her position, can say what she said. Why? She's a woman.
And what Whoopi basically said, well, if you don't want to get hit,
don't hit.
That's right. If you don't want him to hit you, don't you hit him.
And I think
and don't be surprised if he does.
Right.
That was her point.
And I think what the reason why Stephen A. Smith got suspended is two things. He didn't say that. He didn't say don't hit. He talked about provocation. And sometimes people can take provocation to be, as I said, just words.
Right.
A behavior pattern or whatever. And he didn't say that. And because he wasn't real clear with his statement,
he made people think that he was blaming the victim.
Exactly. And at that point, once words can be interpreted a different way, you're done. So either it's like the third rail. They tell you don't touch the third rail. And let's talk about it from these standpoints. It's just like family. You and Mike are family. You're military. I can't come in here and comment negatively on the military to you guys. Why?
Jesse Ventura can.
Well, and get 1.8 million.
Maybe.
But I can't do it for two reasons. Number one, I can't do it. But number two, I'm not military. You guys have been there. You've gone through it. You know what it's about. So if you say something about the military in a negative connotation, it's based on your experience of being military men. And I think it's the same thing with anything that comes to grouping. And in this case here, when we're talking about grouping, we're talking about men versus women. And not in a combative situation, but it's a man on TV or on radio talking about domestic violence and talking about provocation, he's touched the third rail.
Part of the point you're making, I think it was Jenny McCarthy on The View, was making the point that something like no matter what the woman does, a man should never, ever, ever, ever hit her or hit back or whatever the case may be. And we all know that to be true, as you just said. And Whoopi was saying, no, wait a minute. My point is, if you punch a guy in the face and he hits you back, why are you surprised? And Jen McCarthy just went nuts with, oh, no, that should never, ever, 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 ever happen. I don't know that Whoopi's wrong. I don't know if Stephen A. Smith was wrong. I don't know if Michelle Beadle was wrong.
Right.
In the bigger macro picture of things. And it like Sarge was saying a moment ago, ESPN hired Stephen A. Smith because he's outspoken. Mm-hmm. And now you're mad because Michelle Beadle went nuts on Twitter that he's outspoken?
Well, let's be honest. We all know a female or two who are mouthy.
That won't stop.
Exactly. Will get in your face and basically go nose to nose with you. Mm-hmm. To the point that she is daring you to smack her.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we all know every state, I believe, has a must-arrest law, so...
Mm-hmm. We all know one or two. I know I do.
Just two?
Some badass women. I know a few. And they will take you there. Now, is that a right to hit them? No. But if they lay hands on you after maybe you sitting there taking, now we only gonna be able to take so much. You get like Popeye, before he bust out his can of spinach. I done has all I can stand, I can't stand no more. Now, does that give you right to, no, it doesn't.
What you're saying, you're speaking, and I think this is where the reason why I call it the third rail.
Yeah.
Us three sitting here, or sitting at a bar in the privacy of your own home, having that conversation, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. When you go on public airways, whether it be TV or radio, you cannot, there's absolution on certain things. And I think that's a case where, like you talk about, the reaction of Jenny McCarthy is a classic example. Mm-hmm. Her thing is, I don't care if the woman's 6 feet and the guy's 5 feet.
Right. Kind of like a woman, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
A woman's never wrong.
Right. And
it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Right. And because, like I call it that third rail, just like, what I tell you, in friendships, two things you don't talk about, religion and politics. Because you just said it earlier. Michelle Beadle, Stephen A. Smith, Whoopi, everybody's right.
Right.
But because everybody's right, that's the reason why you don't talk about that subject matter in the context of provocation. You don't say, as you just described, well, there is some women. It doesn't matter. When you're in a public arena and you're a public figure, because you think about, let's flip it from Stephen A. Smith being a sports commentator to Stephen A. Smith being a politician. And if he'd have said the same thing, the label would be Stephen A. Smith.
Racist.
Misogynist. Mm-hmm. He's sadistic. Stephen A. Smith condones domestic violence. They run with it. And that's the reason why he got suspended. Did he say something that was wrong in the context of what he does every day on that show First Take on ESPN? Answer is no. But what he did was cause a large segment. And when I say large segment, the point I'm making, I'm talking about the customer. Because Michelle Beadle is one person at ESPN. But
females are 52%.
There you go. And who takes their kids to Disney Land and Disney World and buys the Disney movies and buys the Disney products and then allows their sons to watch ESPN and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Highly conscious.
That's it. And ESPN had to make a corporate decision. And corporations hate controversy. They don't want controversy for anything. And And ESPN is a part of the corporate family of Disney.
Well, you know, Disney hasn't came out and said anything.
They don't have
They
to.
have to.
Well, I know they left.
Right.
They left. Left it up to ESPN.
They left the dirty work to who?
ESPN.
ESPN, that's
Yeah.
right. Because Disney is clean. That's Snow White. Even though she lived with 7 guys, we ain't gonna get into that.
No, please don't. Please don't.
In the woods, so you know, what's going on there?
Nobody nearby.
Right. But I think, you know, then Roger Goodell talked today, because, you know, Hall of Fame weekend, got the inductee ceremony, and then the game will be Sunday night, and he talked about the suspension. And, you know, we talked about it last week, saying 2 games is not enough, but he addressed it today and said it's our collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, well, no, he said it was. He said he's doing he said he's going to the taking the domestic abuse classes. He's apologized, and in Goodell's eyes, he's done everything right. So 2 games is enough. Is good enough as far as he is concerned.
One of the points I heard last night when I was headed home heard Mark Schler talking about on ESPN. He said what the media and the public haven't seen is the rest of the videotape that Goodell has seen. So nobody knows what was on it beforehand, if there's any extenuating circumstance, etc. Which by no means is anybody condoning what he did. Just to be perfectly clear.
Right.
Just the point. I don't want to be sent to my room again.
Yeah, well.
Just the point that we, as a general public, we don't know every single solitary detail that went into whatever occurred there.
Right. Because he talked about it, how people have been comparing substance abuse.
Like we did last week. Yeah.
And he said that what a lot of people aren't aware of is that with the substance abuse issue in terms of suspension from games, you have to get to your 4th offense.
Right.
Not your first offense before you get to 4-game suspension.
Josh, what's his name from?
Josh Gordon.
Yeah.
That's why Josh Gordon was meeting and going through a process this weekend.
Secondhand smoke.
Yeah, that was a heck of a defense there. Because then the question is, why are you hanging out with people like that if you've already been,
Right, exactly.
suspended? But he talked about the fact that this is a collective bargained agreement between the Players Association and the league, and this is the process of how they handle all off-field offenses. To us, though, and I think this is the thing, I think going back to what happened with Stephen A. Smith being suspended, because we talked about fan base and a segment of the population that's offended. Sometimes you have to make a statement outside of those boundaries collectively. And I think when I say collectively, I mean if Goodell couldn't make it, then the Ravens had to make it, or the coach had to make it. Somebody had to make a stronger stand than 2 games, because perception is reality in our world. And the perception is that the NFL is soft on domestic violence. And you can stand up there and read me your rule book and tell me the collective. I understand that legal side. But in terms of going back to the fan base, which is, remember we've talked about this for several months now. NFL is becoming what? A reality show.
Yeah, and they have been marketing heavily toward women.
You see the breast cancer awareness that's really been a big boon in terms of their push, getting athletes to wear pink to the point where you can go into sporting goods shops and buy pink socks and laces and the gloves and some teams even come out in pink uniform, like Mike just said, the mouthpieces. They've really pushed that. So from a public perception, it's a contradiction. You're supporting women when it comes to the arena of breast cancer, but it doesn't seem like you're doing anything when it comes to domestic violence.
Well, and even NFL shops now is making a big push on, the jerseys and whatnot that are cut for a female's body versus a man's body.
Right.
You see a commercial where they're throwing them out and all that good stuff.
Right.
I just wonder if the NFL and the union learned absolutely nothing from Ray Carruth. You would have thought that would have been addressed, and going forward since that point in time, it would still, something along to deal with that would be in the CBA.
Right.
And I think it's kind of crappy that Goodell's going, oh, it's the collective bargaining agreement, because he can stand up and he's the commissioner of the flipping league.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can make the point if he wants to.
This is where imagery, which is so powerful in America. When Adam Silver stood up there after the Donald Sterling situation and stated unequivocally, he has banned him for life.
Period. End of story.
Period. End of story. Adam Silver, they picked him up on their shoulders and they went up to Mount Olympus to introduce him to Zeus, because Adam Silver, in the context of commissioners, became the strongest commissioner in all the sports league. This was Roger Goodell's Donald Sterling moment, and he flushed it down the toilet.
Well, you know, he didn't want to take on the NFL union. I think that was his big thing.
But that's my point. But he has to, in terms of making a bolder statement, just like what Adam Silver did. Adam Silver, he could have been taking on all the owners by banning Donald Sterling. Because you think about it, even a guy like Mark Cuban, who's very socially conscious, a progressive type of guy, he even had questions about, well, can we do this, et cetera, et cetera.
Slippery slope.
Right. Adam Silver's like, I don't care. I don't care.
Because what it does is it lets the image conscious public know that at least the NBA, when it comes to racist statements, will not put up with it. But the NFL, it's okay if you knock out your soon-to-be wife.
There you go. And I think, going to your point about putting up with the union, that goes back to the legal side. If Goodell comes out and says, I'm banning Ray Rice for 8 games, period. Guess what? You don't have a Michelle Beatles. You don't have a Stephen A. Smith situation. You don't have Whoopi. You don't have any of that, because now everybody's.
But now you got the union saying, "Hey, you can't do that."
Right, but that's legal. My point is,
I'm the commissioner. Yes, I can.
Right, and now that's the commissioner and the union doing their off to the side battle with the legalese, as you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But publicly, everybody's going, "Hey, Goodell, way to stand up for women. Great job."
And even as it goes through the process with the union, and he gets 4 games, they settle on 4 games, it's still 4 games. It's still a month of football he doesn't get to play.
Right. And it's still, Goodell was the leader against domestic violence. It wasn't Goodell hiding, as Mike said, hiding behind the collective bargaining agreement, because that's what it looks like by him not doing that.
That's exactly what it looks like.
And when they do the 8 games negotiated down to 4, there's a whole bunch of women buying NFL stuff.
Right.
As soon as it happens.
So
because he took a stand.
So that's where I think he dropped the ball and, like I said, basically flushed this thing down the toilet. You know, well, we have a process. We know you do, because everybody's got a process.
So is the NBA.
Hey, right. Everybody's got a process. Mike just brought up the NBA. We've seen all summer the NBA process being played out through the legal side. But that's the third page of the sports page. That's the last note when you're watching the sports segment on news. Oh, by the way. It's not the lead story.
Right.
Because that part doesn't matter. We know that stuff has to happen. It's what you do when you're in a position of leadership. Do you stand up for what's right? And that's what he could have done, is just stood up for what's right, not what's legal.
I will say this, comparing Adam Silver to Roger Goodell. I finally read that Sports Illustrated article about him that came out.
About Adam Silver?
Adam Silver, yeah. And he's impressive. And he grew up in a family that apparently, his mom was an activist and doing a whole bunch of, social justice things. So, it's kind of in him to do that. I don't know if Goodell was brought up that way. And, as we've all just said, to make the point yet again, Goodell dropped the ball.
Right.
All right.
Silver's
Ray Rice has apologized. Stephen A. Smith, he's suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Is it over now, or do we continue to hear about this?
Depends on what Stephen says when he comes back.
Stephen gave his apology on Friday with Kerry Champion. And now that he's been gone, for him, first of all, when you're a polarizing figure, the shock jock type, you're already going to have dissenters anyway.
Half the people hate you.
That's it. So now this just gives more fuel for these people to hate him anyway. And there'll be people writing ESPN, fire him, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, they're already doing it.
You know, right? So that's not going to change. I think in the broader scope, the issue comes up. Does the Ray Rice issue go away? The answer is yes. The issue of domestic violence, no. And now you have a spotlight, because now it's the next one. Whenever you have an incident like this and it's not handled, based on our opinion, not handled properly, everybody's waiting to see what you do the next time.
Yep.
And it's going to be, I mean, there will be a next time, and it's not to say we.
Unfortunately.
There you go. Just because it is a part, not of football, but a part of American society and fabric, that domestic violence occurs.
Okay, a few years back when Chad Johnson said when his domestic violence event was the worst thing that ever happened to him because it affected his career.
Yeah, to the point where he's in Canada right now.
So
it just goes to show you, it's one. When I keep using the analogy of the third rail, nobody wants to touch it.
Well, it's going.
I just want to say a tweet that I saw about Stephen A. Smith, and it was the best one I saw, was obviously a Stephen A. Smith hater. Is like, there's something like, "Hooray ESPN, hitting Stephen A. where it'll hurt him the most." Turned his microphone off.
Yeah.
Well, I like him. I think he's pretty cool, and when he touches on point, just like the incident with Mark Cuban, when he said about
hoodies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And see, and
it was pretty head on what he said.
Yeah, it absolutely was, which kind of makes what he was trying to say this time really surprising,
right?
Because he's a smart guy.
Mm-hmm.
And see, now this is where the issue, it goes back once again. Remember when Stephen A. Smith made those comments about agreeing with Mark Cuban, and then what did he say at the end? I don't care who I offend in the African American community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but if Stephen A. Smith says, I don't care who I offend
in the female community, you just take a week off, Steve.
There you go. That goes back to what I've told you about purchasing power and economics in this country. There's certain segments you will not offend. Period.
Women. Period. End of story.
Right. When it comes to how things are worked in corporate America, you're just not going to do that. Not going to do it. Now, if Skip Bayless had said, I don't care who I offend in the African American community, Skip Bayless gets suspended by ESPN.
Please, William, please say that. Please.
But the point is you see, we now see the dynamics of how Whoopi Goldberg says something about women and doesn't care who she offends. There's no drawback.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen A. Smith says something about African Americans, no drawback.
I say something about white people, no
drawback. But if you cross over and get outside of your lane
without looking,
you're gonna get hit.
Only in America.
Yeah, that's the way it works.
We gotta take a break. When we come back, now Derrick Rose is off somewhere in Las Vegas, wherever it is. He's getting ready for see if he can make the American team for the Basketball World Cup. He says he knows about the friction between his inner circle and Chicago Bulls management staff.
He said because Reinsdorf doesn't.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's what he said.
Reinsdorf works for Disney.
There you go.
Anyway, we're going to talk about Derrick Rose when we return. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Talking Sports WBCP 1580. UPTV, Channel 6, U versus 99. Chinese cable.
Somewhere around there.
279. 379. We come on right after
Ping pong.
Mandarin, ping pong, and deep sea diving.
I imagine that's a good sporting channel. Those guys play some serious people. I've seen some of the matches, and they really be going at it.
Did you see the other day?
Or table tennis.
Table tennis. There we go.
There was a 41-shot rally.
Oh yeah.
Did you saw that?
I saw it on YouTube.
Now I'm a ping pong aficionado. I get you. 41 shots. Do you know how difficult that is, man?
I know. I better get 4 or 5. So
it was difficult trying to watch.
And it's going because
bing, 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 bing.
Somebody might push you with a drop shot, and then the other guy just come back with a smash, and then the other guy come back with a little cut with the backspin. It was awesome.
It's like they know where the ball is going to be.
You have to be a step ahead as fast, and you think about your reaction time because the table is so short.
Right.
So you got to be on top of that thing. But a 41-shot rally, thing of beauty. You need YouTube, like Mike said. Check it out.
I'll check it out. Hear about the one tennis lady who clocked the fastest serve, or something like 131. Yeah, 131,
something like that. And the amazing thing was the girl she was serving to got a racket on it.
Wow. See, because mine would have had the old cartoon hole in it and a little smoke coming off my racket.
I would have moved.
100.
Yeah, you don't move.
31, 32, something like that.
I'm standing there like this. I'm like, all right, serve. Okay, you can serve. Sure.
Well, that's just like when you're in the outfield, the guy hit the ball, it's a home run, you don't even turn around.
Right?
You see,
you don't even come.
That's deep, and I don't think it's playable.
No, yeah. The outfielder just stands there,
131.
31. And they were saying like Serena or Venus, one of them had the fastest.
Yeah, 128-ish.
Yeah, to that. Wow. Amazing.
That's
when you throw your racket at the
you got to see it to throw. My thing is, the most embarrassing part would be the ball serve hits the ground, that's already going to buy you, and then you swing. And everybody's going, what are you? And then you do I was just warming up, getting ready for the next.
I seen some fastballs like that.
That you just didn't even see it.
Didn't even see it. It had already popped in the glove.
The catcher's already throwing it on back. And that's when you step out the box and knock the dust off your cleats. On the inside, you're saying, please, 4 balls, because I'm not going to hit this.
Anyway, they got a picture. I saw this on the news. I think they got a picture of some young guy coming up. Mm-hmm. He throws 90-something miles an hour, right-handed and left-handed.
That would be me.
So he can pitch from either side.
That would be me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
Here, let me wake him up.
Right. Duck, what the heck happened?
I don't know. You mean, that's saying you throw like a girl, that's me throwing left-handed.
Right. A lot of girls in the world are offended by that.
I know it.
You will
Sergeant Rock.
He will be suspended for 1 week.
All right. Derrick Rose is down in Las Vegas preparing. Derrick Rose.
Who?
Now we ain't seen him play basketball in like 2 years, and his inner circle is displeased with the management of the Chicago Bulls by saying they should surround Derrick Rose with players that can help the Bulls win, and Derrick Rose said they don't talk this way when I'm around, but when I'm not around. All this is being said, all that is being said, but he acknowledges finally that he knows about this. Now, Bulls management, they saying that, they've come with disagreements with Rose's inner circle, mainly his brother,
Reggie,
and a few other people that he hang out.
Reggie,
one of his managers,
Reggie.
Little short dude, Armstrong, used to play at the Bulls.
BJ?
Yeah, he wasn't happy the way he left the Chicago Bulls, so he's another one that's speaking out against the management.
Reggie.
But I found it interesting. The man ain't played basketball in 2 years,
right?
But you upset because the Bulls haven't made moves to put players around him to help him win.
Well, and the thing is when they think they should make the move, then Derrick goes, I ain't playing this year. He's lucky he's still got a team to come to.
I agree. Now the Bulls went out and got Paul Gasol from the Lakers. Got a MVP player from Spain last year. I can't recall his name right now. I also got what's the dude, McDermott. They picked up in the draft.
Aaron Brooks, they picked up backup point guard. You know,
they still got Joakim Noah.
Jimmy Butler's still on the team. Taj Gibson's still on the team.
Critters are back.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls perform this season. And they saying this with Derrick Rose going to the be on the USA team for the World Cup. This is going to be pretty much a showcase of how he would probably do when he returns to the Bulls this season.
I think there's two things here. Number one, the installation of Derrick Rose worked when he was in high school and college. That works.
Right.
And I understand why. You come from an area, a gang-infested neighborhood. Your family's trying to protect you, understanding you're a basketball prodigy. They want to get you through high school. They want to get you into college so that eventually, you can get to the pros. Did I say get you into college or get you through college or play that year?
Get you to stop by college.
You did the drive-through. You ordered the combo and kept going. But now that you're in the league and you're a MVP of the league, the worst thing in the world, going back to our original conversation about perception and reality, is when people are now speaking for you as an adult. That gives the indication that you can't do this on your own.
You're a child.
That's it.
Yeah, you have no idea what's going on.
And
outside the basketball court.
To say, I didn't know that, this is your brother. This ain't like an estranged brother.
How old is Derrick? 24-ish?
Oh, he should be, 26, 25, 26?
26. So he's known Reggie for 25, 26 years.
Right. This is his brother who helped guide him through the first two stages of basketball life. And B.J. Armstrong, as you said earlier, B.J. never liked the way he was kind of pushed aside, by Bulls management. That was Krause. And so B.J., this is kind of his way of thinking he's sticking it back to the Bulls.
Yeah, but Krause ain't around anymore.
Exactly. He's not around. And I think he's doing the battle with John Paxson because he was one of the ones who was there when he got the ceremony pushed out the door. But back to Rose, the Bulls are allowing him basically to use USA Basketball as kind of his
training camp.
There you go, training camp, audition, coming out party, letting people see this is what I look like now, as opposed to waiting until the season.
Right.
But in terms of making a comment about Bulls management not surround, when the Bulls management asked Derrick Rose to help them recruit Carmelo Anthony,
he stopped by for a minute.
Right, but he made the comment,
it ain't his job.
It ain't my job.
Right.
What can I say to make Carmelo Anthony, a grown man, want to come to Chicago? If he don't want to come to Chicago, whatever else, if you're the face of the franchise,
right?
Magic Johnson's been there, Kobe Bryant's been there, LeBron James has been there, Michael Jordan, some of the best players in the world have been there for the organization when it comes time to bring free agents in, and he was really reluctant to do that. And now you got family members saying...
Don't you think he said that because he wouldn't know how?
What is it to... Hey, Sam, me and you team up, we got a chance to go into the finals.
I'm the best point guard in the NBA. You're the best scorer in the NBA.
Let's get this thing together and go play ball.
Come on, Melo. Let me take you out on the town.
Right.
Let's go down to Miracle Mile. Whatever. Let's go.
This would be our town.
Whatever.
Southside.
Southside. Whatever.
Whatever we're gonna do.
Gary, Indiana.
Right.
Who cares?
I'm Derrick Rose. I'm from Chicago.
But once again, like I said, I don't think he had the people skills to do that. That's the reason why he turned it down.
I see. And okay, so let's go back to what Mike said earlier. He looks like a what then?
A child.
And if he looks like a child at this point in his career, then what kind of respect do you think? Why do you think all the negative comments are made about him and his return?
And the other thing is he's known enough not to play for 2 years. So
Right.
how can you not know enough? You know he knows Melo. You know they talk. Whether, they're great friends or buddies or anything like that. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
You think he's not playing for 2 years, that his inner circle was telling him not to play for 2 years?
I'm sure. I am positive.
There's two things that told him not to play. His inner circle told him not to play, and $250 million from Adidas
Told him not to play. Because,
How many doctors said he was ready to go?
every single one.
I think Dr. Scholl, Dr. Pepper, I think every doctor that we know of said that Derrick Rose was ready to play basketball, and he didn't come back. And then you see your team fighting for their lives in terms of their playoff lives.
Yeah.
You see a guy like Nate Robinson, basically a journeyman in the NBA, who comes in and leads your team while you're over there in the best suits money can buy. You're watching Nate Robinson lead your team, and how did the Bulls reward Nate Robinson? They send him packing. This year, who comes in? DJ Augustine leads your team. Team makes a playoff. You sitting over there, best dressed. So pretty soon, people start looking, going,
What we need him for?
right, that's it. And how can you complain about getting, and you're not even out there to play?
And on the flip side of that, it's your team in your hometown. You've been given the keys to the franchise.
Right. And what do you keep doing with the keys? Hand them to somebody else.
Reggie, here you go, Reggie.
Hey, can you take care of this?
BJ, I got to go count my money from Adidas.
I got to go ahead and check, make sure my suits look good for tonight's game.
Got it on the tie on straight.
So now his commentary, I'm so anxious to come back. I'm going to make all these people eat our words. It's not about making us eat our words.
You have something to prove.
Here you go.
Exactly.
And and I'm thinking either he shows up and shows out, or he's getting traded. Somewhere.
Yes, he is.
And here's the thing.
That's my perception.
Even if he shows out, I think he allowed the window to close.
Really tiny.
Right. If you, like I said, if you go back 2 years ago with Nate Robinson and the way that team played with Nate Robinson, you take Nate Robinson, no disrespect to Nate Robinson, but if you take Nate Robinson out and put Derrick Rose in, where are the Bulls? You take DJ Augustine out and put Derrick Rose in, where are the Bulls? So now you want, it's like there's a group fight going on, and they fighting because of you. You standing behind the group, and now when you see the group winning, now you want to come up and throw a punch. Talking about, let me get in.
Yeah, and he's saying this away from Chicago at that, and a lot of people are taking offense to that. Why come you didn't say this before you left to go down to Las Vegas?
Well, they should, because again, it's his franchise in his hometown. And correct, I don't remember exactly, but he was pretty stoked to be drafted by the Bulls.
Right.
Hey, I'm going home to play my professional ball. In Chicago.
You think about, other than the 1 year he spent in Memphis, every year in his life has been spent.
It's only been like 4 months he was in Memphis.
Okay.
You know he didn't go to class. You know he didn't.
And here's the thing: he only had to go the first semester to be.
That's true. Yeah, okay.
To be eligible,
And
because second semester doesn't matter.
yeah, who knows who did his homework?
Right. So the point is, everything has been Chicago. You've been given the keys to the city, not to the car, to the entire
To
city.
the garage.
Right.
You got the passcode to open the door.
There you go. And you can let all the vehicles in you want. And you stand there going, I don't know. And then tonight they play an exhibition of red and white
9 o'clock or something like
scrimmage where the USA team gets split up. And this is for the World Cup. Now, I made a comment yesterday with a group of guys at the barbershop. Derrick Rose, everybody thinks is a shoe-in. But you got to remember this. We talk about money in this first hour. Damian Lillard is the new face for Adidas. Point guard from Portland. He's one of the 5. You got Damian Lillard, John Walls, Stephen Curry. Who's the fourth guard? There's another guard, and then Derrick Rose. If they cut Derrick Rose loose, guess what? It wouldn't matter because he's not in the conversation right now with those four.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people say, "Are you crazy, man? What do you mean it doesn't matter?" Because
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
He hasn't played in 2
He
years.
hasn't played. That's the point.
Right.
And so when Adidas said, "Okay, Derrick Rose, you take your money. Damian Lillard, you the face of the company." And when they do that, do you not think executives from Adidas are not in Vegas right now?
They will sell more Adidas because of Damian Lillard than they will Rose.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a shoe-in. And I was gonna say it, hamstrings turn into beef strings real quick doing that. And then John Walls, who just had a great run in the playoffs.
Kyrie Irving, see the other one?
That's they. And why would you not want Kyrie Irving out there?
Right.
Who's going to be paired up with who?
Kevin Love.
And LeBron James. So you see how this, people kind of ignore these other webs that are woven based on how you remove yourself from something. Now, yeah, I don't think anybody's rooting against Derrick Rose, but at this point, it's like
Nobody's going to be surprised if you don't make the cut.
there you go. It wouldn't be front page news.
And it certainly, if he doesn't, it's not
It
going to.
would be in Chicago.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. See, because what it does,
Well, see,
if it doesn't,
this is his comeback season, and like you said, this is his training camp.
Well, will it be boom, the entire front page in Chicago, or
Rose cut by Coach K.
or just down here in the corner?
Yeah.
Be down there in the corner somewhere.
So
I just say this, that, I think that Mike said it best. He's, by allowing his brothers and B.J. Armstrong and everybody else continue to chirp for him, it's starting to really diminish him in terms of what he should be, which is the face of the Chicago Bulls. And that's why he was brought in. That's why he was MVP. And right before his knee, he tore his ACL. He was right there in that conversation of LeBron and Kevin Durant and Carmelo, best player in the NBA. He was right in that conversation.
and being someone who's torn his ACL, and by no stretch of the imagination am I a professional athlete, but you don't need 2 years to recover. You don't.
Well, Adrian Peterson proved that.
Yeah, you need like
few years
a
ago.
week or two,
Yeah.
apparently.
But
Well, yeah,
he's not from this earth. So
No, he's not.
Never bring Peterson in.
I think Rose just needs to control his people more than anything.
You know what? And I hate to say it this way, but we're talking business. He needs to get rid of,
Some people
because there's an old saying: family and business,
do not mix.
they don't mix. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh man, that's his brother."
It don't matter.
It don't matter. We're talking business,
His brother is hurting him more than he helped.
right?
Well, I mean, if he keeps chirping, Reinsdorf will eventually get tired of it.
We know how tight Reinsdorf is when it comes to money. He couldn't even pay Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest player of all time. You are a guy who's been out for 2 years.
And not even you, your peeps are running their mouth.
And then the thing about winning, and we know how Chicago sports works.
That's the Blackhawks.
See, right now they are the only one who can bang on their chest and talk about being a winner. The lovable losers on the north side, the 500 team on the south side,
The Bears ain't much better.
500 team right there at Soldier Field.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, according to one guy.
Right.
And so you got that chance. You got that real chance. Now it's about redemption for him.
And let's hope that he realizes that, and he's got a little pride. Not that he doesn't have pride, but he's got, I think you guys know what I mean. He's got pride, and he comes out and he does, in fact, prove everybody wrong. Because then the Bulls will be, not that they're not relevant, but then they'll be relevant again.
As weak as the East is,
Oh, yeah.
they'd be a top.
Even with LeBron and Cleveland.
Right, they'd be a top 3 team immediately.
Well, we'll see what happens come Saturday. Don't training camp starts in September, somewhere around about.
Right after Labor Day, they said. Yeah, Labor Day,
Okay.
Memorial Day. I
We'll
thought,
see come
first
in.
week or two.
Speaking of Adidas, Under Armour has came out with a new commercial with Missy Copeland. For those of you who don't know who Missy Copeland is, she is a African American premier ballerina. Have you seen it?
No.
Yeah, no, I have to show it to you. Have you seen
I
it?
have not.
Truly amazing. Truly amazing.
You know,
Was she able to? You saw Mike put his leg up on your.
can't do it again.
Would he need like some Under Armour tights on to get his leg back up there?
Oh, I don't know. She was. I guess she was wearing Under Armour gear.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to show you. I mean, awesome. Well, I guess it was trying to say. They was trying to say that, in a way, ballerina is sort of a sport.
Well, they're definitely athletic.
Yeah.
Definitely athletic. And the one thing about Under Armour,
Excuse me.
the founder kind of ties into us here, but he's a graduate of the University of Maryland, and we all know Maryland's joining the Big Ten. But they've always been on, for lack of a better term and very cliche, on the cutting edge of their marketing stuff, and they're not afraid to take a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
So
She's good.
she's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's good.
When it comes to
Ballerina. Yeah.
Ballerina stuff.
Yeah. She's
She walk up on her toes.
Yeah. Did all that.
she's good being a ballerina.
Do we need to go to break now?
Yeah, we're gonna go to break. Then we come back. We're gonna talk baseball. Cards picked up John Lackey, who made from Boston. Basically, he pitched a couple of good games with Boston and Cardinals in the World Series.
One game six, I think.
Yeah. So the Cardinals picked him, but they also picked up Justin Madison from Cleveland. You know, they had demoted him down to the minor league. But last year he was won close to 20 games. So Cardinals trying to pick up. There was a whole lot of trading going on yesterday.
Yes, indeed.
The big one was in Detroit.
Who they get rid of?
It don't matter who they got rid of, it's who they got.
Who they get?
David Price.
All right.
So now you got the last three American League Cy Young winners in Detroit. Well, I say that because Justin Verlander, who you guys have interviewed, his dad,
Right.
is one of them. Him and Max Scherzer, and now David Price. And we all know that good pitching beats hitting.
Yep. Everybody making moves. I mean, you know, Boston basically just raised the white flag. We ain't going nowhere this year. They got rid of.
Just the Red Sox.
They got rid of Lackey and they got rid of Lester too.
Yeah.
They got rid
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Lester
both
too.
of
Sent him to Oakland.
Yep.
And you talk about a pitching staff. Look at what Oakland has.
Yeah. And you know,
Jason Hamill, Samardzija.
Well, two Cubbies.
yeah, they're in first.
Well, they always do better once they leave.
That's
so.
the point.
And they're in first place in the American League West. So everybody's making moves.
And you know that's always the trend is how many ex-Cubs do you have on your roster in the playoffs? The team that has the most ex-Cubs
Tends to win.
tends to win it. So, see, you criticize the Cubs. We win it every year. We just don't win it for us.
All right.
We good win it for somebody else.
Okay, we back talking baseball after this.
Nutcracker.
Calvin.
Yes, sir. Talking sports WBC.
You probably explain that a little.
1580. We were just in here watching some ballet. You know, we are an eclectic group of gentlemen that really like to expand our horizons when it comes to the fine arts.
Yeah, exactly.
And today is no exception, and we happen to watch ballerina Misty Copeland as she performed Swan Lake.
Excellent. I'm gonna have to attend a ballet. I know they have them at Cranard from time to time.
Yes, sir.
You would have to leave the foamy #1 finger and the popcorn at home.
I wouldn't have to be quiet. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So you can't be in there with your what's the thing from when at the World Cup in South Africa? The
Zuba Zuba.
Zuba, right.
so when they make that great leap, I can't stand up and applaud.
No. Can't do that.
Just wait till the end.
Right.
Or what they call them, a pirouette.
Right. Yeah. But the ballerina Missy Copeland, a must-see for everyone.
Under Armour commercial.
Under Armour commercial, YouTube it if you get an opportunity.
I will what I want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Highly recommended. Very motivational.
Yes, it is.
I think you too will stand on your toes when you see this commercial.
Very well done.
Very good, Joseph.
Thank you.
Speaking of standing on their toes, Cardinals went out and got John Lackey. Was he a right-handed pitcher?
Right-handed pitcher.
Right, from the Boston Red Sox, who beat him a couple of games in the World Series a couple of years ago.
Lackey and Lester.
And of course, you know, the Cardinals are in a three-way race with the Brewers and the Pirates in the National League Central.
Mm-hmm.
I think St. Louis right now is something like 2 games behind Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And you know,
Them and Pittsburgh are tied.
yeah, okay. And you know, and this is the time when teams start making their move toward postseason. There's been an awful lot of trading going on this week, and a lot of staples with other staples with other teams who you think would never, a team would never give them up.
I mean,
Have made those moves and gave them up.
if you go back, the defending world champions are the Boston Red Sox. Would you have thought after the Boston Marathon, Boston Strong, This Is Our City, Big Papi, and the run that the Red Sox made last year, could you have envisioned that here it is today, you're talking about the Red Sox basically jettisoned their 2 best pitchers because they're not in contention this year.
Right.
Well, they're only 12 and a half games back in last place.
Now, but
Where the Cubs at?
hey. We'll get to the National League. We'll get to the National
They're a
League.
game and a half back.
But the point is that baseball is probably the only sport,
I was just getting ready to bring that up.
where you can be the world champs one year and have a fire sale the next year. Like, well, not gonna make it. Everybody, see you later. Appreciate what you did for us, but
And they start trading with contenders.
yeah.
No other league does that.
Now, could you imagine in football, in week 8, the Cowboys are out of contention and Jerry Jones says, well, Tony Romo.
How long? Week 8?
I'll just use like that halfway point.
Right.
But could you, basketball, could you imagine, because, they do the same, they have a trade deadline, but you don't see the movement in those 2 sports the way you see in baseball.
Right.
Big name guys. And like you said, the Cardinals, we talked about this before. I hate them to my core.
You'll be all right.
But this is what you do. Why? You're in the dog days of summer. There's not too many teams in contention. So if you shore up your pitching staff,
Right.
when you're playing those bad teams, and you play a 3-game series, this almost guarantees you 2 out of 3 games in terms of victories. And if you can win at a 67% clip,
Yeah, for the rest of the season.
you're going to be okay.
It's 100+ wins.
Right. And will 100+ wins get you in the playoffs
Yes,
today?
they will.
And then when you get in the playoffs, you never know what happens after that.
And these pitchers that they picked up have playoff experience.
Yes.
So now the key is how much run support can you get from August 1st to October 1st? Is really, you're saying for 60 days, can we average 3 runs? Because if you average 3 runs in terms of run support,
You're winning a lot of games.
I would say you probably win 80% of your games with that pitching staff that you have now. You got Adam Wainwright.
Mm-hmm.
You put Lackey in that
Number 2 slot. Lance Lynn 3.
Yeah.
Shelby Miller 4.
4, yeah.
I get it.
And you got and you still got the same bullpen with what's his name, Masterson,
Yeah,
coming in there,
coming in there.
spot starter, or long relief.
Throwing a 99 plus mile an hour fastball.
And they're starting to hit.
And that's what, if you hit and you can score 3 runs or more, you're going to win 90% of your games. Now, the other place, you talk about Lackey going to the Cardinals, Lester goes to the A's.
Goes to Oakland, right?
That's just a 2-month rental, though.
Oh, yeah. Billy Beane won't keep him longer than just, like you said, he'll be a free agent. He'll jettison it. He'll sign with somebody else. But the fact that you got Hamill, Samardzija, and now you pick up Lester in the American League, it's almost the same setup that the Cardinals have, right?
Right.
But what happened in Detroit yesterday?
Who they pick up?
David Price, a left-handed wonder ball boy. This is the only way I can describe him.
Yeah.
He basically carried Tampa. But David Price, I think, because he's in that market like Tampa, small market, I don't think people appreciate his pitching prowess. But now to be on the same staff as Verlander, and what was the third guy?
Max Scherzer. Well, and their number 4 starter's got like 14 wins or something like that, which is good because Verlander's only got like 9.
And then you have arguably the best hitter in all of baseball.
Miggy.
I would not be surprised if we saw an old school 1967 World Series Cardinals Tigers.
Don't forget Detroit still got the body issue cover boy.
Yeah. Prince. Not that Prince.
No, not that.
I'm a vegetarian.
Right. I just want to see the vegetables he eats. Some big A vegetables he's eating.
He got Little Prince by about 300 pounds.
He's probably eating Princes.
I don't think Prince weighs. I don't think he weighs 100 pounds soaking wet, do it.
Can I have a bowl of Princes? Does that add milk and enjoy? But going back to your point about only sport that does this. Does it detract from the season now, or does it, like for us being baseball fans, add some adrenaline to the stretch run? Now that these moves have been made,
it definitely adds adrenaline because this, especially me and Mike being fans. Of course,
your adrenaline left in May.
We cheesing like Chester cats right now because this is our chance. We can make a move now. You know what I'm saying?
Duck, do your thing.
Yeah, we can make that move.
Which duck?
This is our chance to get to the playoffs. So
now with these moves being made, now that you're speaking from your position as a fan of a team in contention,
that wins.
Keep talking.
He's provoking me.
Exactly.
Duck? No, I don't mean duck. Duck?
Let me back up a little bit.
But speaking from that standpoint, what happens if they don't? If you think about it from as a fan, you load your team up with that type of talent for the next 60 days, and the wheels come off.
It's a big disappointment.
Obviously a big disappointment, but
we had our chance. We went out and got what we thought could take us to the end. It just didn't happen. Well, it didn't seem to happen before, so it ain't
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal because they've made deals before that haven't got them to where they wanted to go. But but the good thing is with Lackey and Masterson, obviously
your odds are a lot better.
Well, yeah, and the Cardinals think they're good pitchers, so the possibility of re-signing both of them if they're up, because I know that Lackey's in like the 4th or 5th year of his contract, whatever, is greater versus, all the talk you heard about Lester was he's going to be a rental. That's it, because he's a free agent and he's talking about going back to Boston because he wants to, go home. So I was sad the Cardinals gave up Joe Kelly because I just think he's a great guy, and he's got some talent. Not so much with Alan Craig, but you can't. They could have made all deals that didn't put them in a position where they're at today.
Right. The other thing I was surprised about, speaking of the trading deadline, is we see movement of pitchers. Obviously, as we just talked, pitchers can really affect change, I think, a little more immediately than a position player. But are you surprised that you don't see the movement of a well-known position player or players than, as we just indicated with pitchers?
Well, if a well-known position player is moved, he is moved because of a pitcher.
Right. Well, I mean,
for the most part, because generally you don't trade a position player for a position player.
Right.
Unless you trade them for their bat.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because, for example, what is his name? Cespedes?
Cespedes, yeah.
From...
Well, he's now in Boston, but he was at Oakland.
Right. And for the past 2 years, home run derby guy.
Right.
He's got more home runs as an individual than Boston's outfield has combined.
Mm-hmm.
But, a guy like him who probably thought, he was being the leader of that team.
I'm safe.
Right. And now you send me to Boston?
Well, but I mean, yeah, Boston sucks right now. But from a player perspective, him being a left fielder, let me go play the Green Monster.
Right. I'll just stand here.
I've got a rocket for an arm anyway.
Right.
I'm going to get paid again. But, and I think that's part of why you don't see a lot of position players changing places, is because the really good ones are locked into that long-term mega freaking contract.
I'm just saying where he was at as in terms of winning.
Right.
Here it is, 60 days away from playoff.
You go to a losing team.
Right.
I can make my winter vacation plans right now.
Right. Yeah. I'll be headed back to the Dominican Republic early.
That can be a little disheartening.
And then, think about the guy in Detroit, Austin Jackson, playing center field, middle of the game.
Take him out in the middle
of the game and get hugged from your teammates. Come here. I got to tell you something.
We got news.
No, you got to come over here so I can tell you something.
You're taking a trip.
Really? The All-Star was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, we know. You're going to Seattle.
You traded in the middle of a ball game.
Space Needle. So all his teammates, they get a standing ovation from that crowd. He gets a hug from his teammates.
He don't wonder why he's coming out. He don't know yet.
He knew. It wasn't because of a great play it just made.
Well, the GM of Detroit said that it was, it was basically right before, the game that it got finalized, and
so he already knew then.
I don't think they told him yet.
I think they told him. I think that's what I'm saying. It was announced in the game.
During the game.
That's why the fans gave him a standing ovation, and the game stopped, and he came out.
The announcer gets on the PA system and say, "Dude, you've been traded. Come on in."
Yeah,
pretty much. Top of the third, 1 out.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, time out. Yo,
Austin. And
you got a plane to catch.
His teammates were lined up in the dugout. All of them gave him a hug. Grabs his bats out of the bat rack. Go in the clubhouse.
Did you see him happy?
I mean,
you seem surprised. I mean, what is it?
Probably surprising.
You're going to Seattle. See you later.
But hey, Robinson Cano's out there.
Okay. And what did they say? It's part of
King Felix.
Part of the game.
Yeah.
These things happen, but
in the middle of the game, they tend to wait till afterwards.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, he got pulled right in the middle. So I just wondering what your thoughts were. I know next year I will probably be in that position as a Cub fan. That exhilaration of a couple guys being brought in,
You think?
Well, I'm just saying right now. I'm just saying.
You keep saying the only thing that could help the Cubs was tearing down Wrigley Field.
That too. So maybe that in the middle of the game, just dynamite that thing, C4 all over. You have approximately 10 seconds to get out. Save yourself.
Bulldozers rolling in from left field.
Right, and then you just start seeing sections fall. If you're on third base line, you see first base going, drop your beer.
Falling like the wave.
There you go. And you know, idiot Cub fans, this is cool. Yeah! Go ahead. Oh, it's coming this way.
We need another beer. All right. Locally, Joe, what's been happening?
Locally. Let's see what's been going on. They had the Twin City golf outing this past weekend. Clayton Parkhill won for
I saw that about the upteen time.
5th time, and young prodigy out there, and they only were able to play 36 holes because of the weather. You know, normally this is a 54-hole tournament, but they were only be able to play on Saturday and Sunday. They played Saturday at Urbana Country Club, and Sunday they played at Lincolnshire. And remember the kid I told you about that played with us? Mm-hmm. He played in the tournament.
How you do?
Didn't do too well. He shot a 97 on that Saturday.
Yes.
And I do not know what DJ score
He up
was
there with you, ain't
on Sunday.
He's still below me.
But it was, I mean, you know, Mountain Country Club is kind of tough to play. A lot of at Lincolnshire, a lot of obstacles. Meaning, got a lot of houses on the courses, trees.
Houses on the courses.
I mean, you know,
Next to it.
right, lined right on the course. So if you're me, you're in the potato salad or hitting the direct TV dish. But if you're these guys, you know, they hit it straight and hit it long. Mm-hmm. So he won the Twin City this past weekend. Camp Rantoul, we'll probably be talking about that in a couple of weeks. They've announced a schedule for that. 9 days left before Illinois goes to camps, so need to get ready for that. High school football, everybody's doing their summer camps right now. And then I had told Mike off the air, local kid, call him a quasi-local kid. He was here when his dad was the offensive coordinator. Mike Loxley was the offensive coordinator for the University of Illinois. Kyle Loxley made his commitment yesterday to play college football for Florida State University. And I was telling Mike that the thing that gets me is, you know, I remember him and my son real good friends since 3rd grade. So I remember him at that point. Mm-hmm. I don't look at him as a 6'4", 200 some odd pound, 4-star quarterback. And you know, when you're watching TV or reading the paper, when you see that type of information, it's for, you know, people you never come in contact with.
Right.
So you don't equate that to somebody you've known for that many years. But what I told Mike, what I thought was cool about it was his dad called him Wednesday while he was here and said, I want you to make your commitment while you're here in Champaign. Because, you know, they live out in Maryland now.
Right.
And so obviously it by doing that, no media, you know, everybody in Maryland's waiting for it, but nobody in Champaign even knows he's here. And so he had to allow or make contact with the coaches of Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, and Texas, just the name of 4 schools that he wouldn't be coming. And he will be continuing his football career with the defending national champions. You know, so I guess one of the things I talked to Kai about is, you know, when you go to the grocery store, stay away from crabs.
Yeah.
You know.
Make sure you pay
pay
for
for them, right? If you get some crab leg, Kai,
Top of the line.
it's go right.
Way out.
And don't do that little security dance where you're trying to fake out the fat guy. But all jokes aside, I mean, I just think it's fantastic that a kid who, you know, for a better portion of his life lived here, as his dad coached at the University of Illinois, and now he's going to continue on and play for FSU.
Can you see him making that call to Ohio State? Aaron. Sorry, dude.
Just ain't happening.
Ain't coming.
Can't come.
Can't do it, bro.
Going to Florida. Hope you understand, man. Y'all didn't offer me enough
Damn
money.
cold up here.
Hear that crying in the background?
Well, he probably went to Florida because of maybe it's playing opportunity because old dude down this probably gonna be it's probably gonna be his last year at Florida State. So
Well, if it is his last year, then I think the thing for Kai, which also goes to the level of competition that FSU has, he committed, I think 2 other top 50 quarterbacks committed yesterday to FSU. You know, and The old saying, to the victors go the spoils.
Yeah.
You know, the rich get richer. Which allows me to segue to this Illinois situation that's going on. Big Ten Network talked about this the other day in terms of media day. You know, Illinois has been talking about this quarterback competition between...
it's a foregone conclusion who's going to be quarterback.
Well, see, you say that, I say that, Mike says that, and the whole world says that. But Tim Beckman, coach at the U of I, continues to say it's a three-man competition.
Oh, dude, for real.
And Dave Revson from Big Ten Network said something the other day.
It was really good, by the way.
Yes. I never heard a reporter say this, but for him to say this kind of makes, you know how to get them dog ears. I got dog ears on this one. He said, and I quote, if this is a contrived quarterback competition just to drag this thing out so that Aaron Bailey can't leave, it is a travesty among travesties in college football.
Yep.
Because Aaron Bailey is a 5-star, not a 4-star, was a 5-star recruit out of Bolingbrook.
I think the highest ranked recruit Illinois has ever gotten.
Right. And he came here and he said it. Coming to play quarterback, and I'm not changing positions. And I think everybody who's affiliated with the Orange and Blue, when Wes Lunt said he was transferring to Illinois, knew right then Wes Lunt was going to be the quarterback.
Exactly.
Well, and the coaching staff is hoping and praying every night, I imagine, that Aaron comes in and says, I want to play wide receiver.
Right.
Or something other than quarterback.
And, you know, we just mentioned FSU getting 3 top 50 guys to come to play quarterback, all of them 4-star quarterbacks.
Illinois got
Except
2.
Illinois has 2, and they're playing the dance of who's, you know, when, like you said, you know who's, Wes Lunt is going to be the quarterback. Riley O'Toole, no chance.
Nope.
None whatsoever. The way Riley O'Toole plays, he kills Wes Lunt and Aaron Bailey. And then gets to the White Bronco with AC Collins. That's the only way he plays quarterback.
That's an O.J. Simpson reference for you young folks.
Is that the guy from Naked Gun?
Yeah. Google it.
Wes Lunt, with the offense success that Nathan Shieldhouse had last year, the vision that I think the coaching staff over there has, Nathan was more of a dual threat kind of guy. Lunt is that stereotypical 6'4",
white,
5, big arm, slinging around the field kind of guy. The guy that they want to put in there, and the guy that can bring back. If you go back to the old Mike White days, when Tony Eason, Dave Wilson, Jack Trudeau, when those guys just sit back there and sling it around, win or lose, they put butts in the seats because it was an exciting style of football. And I think to Beckman, to Mike Thomas, with all the renovations that's happened on campus, that's the first thing they want to do is try to resell Illinois football, and that's the way you sell it. But if they're selling it based on that, but trying to create, as Dave Revson said, a contrived quarterback competition, this may hurt the team in the long run, because if Aaron Bailey is then kind of...
Nobody's going to come here.
No, exactly.
Nobody will come here. No big-time recruit will come here if this is the case.
Right.
However, you know, Lunt gets hurt. You know, from Bailey's perspective, and I don't think he would ever wish anybody to get hurt.
Exactly.
Wes Lunt has, up until this point in time, proven to not be the most durable player.
Right.
So if Lunt is in fact a starter and Bailey's 2, I would much rather have Bailey at 2 than, and nothing against Riley, but Riley O'Toole.
Well,
and Riley O'Toole.
And I think the thing against Riley O'Toole is for 3 years he's had the opportunity. And he couldn't beat out Nathan Shieldhouse. And this is not, I mean, Nathan Shieldhouse is the total yardage leader in Illinois history. But if he couldn't beat him out, and now you got 2 guys who are supposed to be better throwers, and this is supposed to be a throwing offense.
You think Bailey wouldn't mind being number 2?
I don't think a 5-star recruit looks to be number 2. You know,
I wouldn't either. But
when you say mine to be number 2, I think as long as he can stay quarterback and get an opportunity to be quarterback, and that's where all this is playing. And this is why, obviously, all we're doing, and which we do on everything, is speculate. But when the season starts, when we're probably into week 5, which is the opening of the Big Ten, if he hasn't sniffed the field, other than, you know, those little packages they made last year,
which were after
the Tim Tebow
month and a half, yeah.
and it was, to me, it was the Tim Tebow packages. You're going in, but you're going to run the ball.
Everybody know you're going to
run the ball, and teams figure that stuff out quick.
Well, but here's the thing: what Sarge just said about, you know, you thinking mine's being number 2. There's going to be 3 5-star recruits in FSU waiting their turn too, and next year if Winston leaves, 2 of them aren't going to be the starter.
Right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with the mindset of the kid,
right,
and whether or not the program makes it worth it.
But here's what I say to you: do you mind being a 5-star recruit sitting at FSU?
Well, so I said the program.
Right. Or you a 5-star recruit
at Illinois.
At Illinois, sitting. I mean, that's really what it's like saying you're a backup cornerback to Richard Sherman in Seattle, or you're a backup cornerback
to Peanut Tillman in
Chicago. There you go.
Whoever it is in Jacksonville.
You know, there you go. So that's why I say this thing is, it is a, you know, we had a ballet theme going earlier. Mm-hmm. You know.
Oh, it's a dance, all right.
Right. Mike's got a little something that I think, you know, one of the things when we do talk in sports, we get a great opportunity to talk about other things and things that are important to the community. And Mike has always had his finger on the pulse when it comes to stuff like that. So without further ado, Michael Cox.
Well, we were earlier talking about when Governor Quinn was here and last Friday, and as Joe mentioned a couple, 3-4 weeks ago, whenever it was, this is not my only gig. And one of the things that I'm involved in is with the Fifth and Hill Neighborhood Rights Group, which is attempting to get Ameren to clean up the site down the street of Fifth and Hill, the old manufactured gas plant. On the 28th, Governor Quinn directed the Illinois EPA to stop or to order the folks that own the Clinton landfill, which is area-wide or area disposal out of Peoria, to stop taking what's called PCBs over there. Yesterday, let me back up. When he did that, a lot of people were like, great, that's wonderful, that's awesome, but what about MGP waste, which is the former manufactured gas, toxic stuff that some folks say it still contaminates the Fifth and Hill area. Ameren, of course, says it doesn't. But anyway, the point being, yesterday, it says Governor Quinn announces manufactured gas plant waste disposal stopped at Clinton landfill. Action will protect drinking water supply for Central Illinois residents. Why that is significant is because it sits over the Mahomet Aquifer, which there are 14 counties that get their water from the Mahomet Aquifer. Champaign, Cass, DeWitt, Ford, Iroquois, Logan, Macon, Mason County, McLean County, Menard, Peoria, Piatt, Tazewell, Vermilion, and Woodford counties. And the aquifer supplies more than 100 million gallons of water, and it serves approximately 850,000 residents. So I think the three of us should just take credit for him signing that, because, you know, he was here Friday, he saw the effects of what happens to the groundwater, and then signs it, and we're good to go. So
that groundwater,
I'll take it.
I'll take credit for it.
I'll take credit.
Give me another glass.
That got to be a big aquifer. There's a lot of water under there.
It runs basically from to the east Indiana border to the Illinois River in the west. So
where is it fed from? You know. That'd be something.
Originally the glaciers up north. I have no idea. It's
still affected
in water beds. Yes,
Greenland. But I think that's great that, you know, like Mike said, he does a lot of things other than just sit here and, you know, show his good looks on TV and talk sports. And I think you're right about taking credit for that, for Governor Quinn to come in last week and Next thing you know, just a sign.
He did PCBs earlier in the week, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it's kind of coincidental. He comes fourth and Tremont. Next thing you know,
boom.
Hey, hey.
Don't let them drink no more.
Security staff, they kind of turned their head on that one.
All right. Anything else?
I just want to say one thing. Proud day for me as a pops.
Okay.
You talked earlier about ACL injuries. Last year at this time, I took my son to college to find out, unbeknownst to him, which shows his toughness, that he had a torn ACL, and he worked on it all summer, didn't know it was torn. And so 3 weeks later, he had surgery, and he missed the entire football season last year. Well, I'm proud to report that as of this morning, at 7:30 when he went in for his physical, which, as I told Mike, the fun part about this, the team physician was his surgeon, Dr. Wollner. He's out of the north side of Chicago. He's operated on Blackhawks, Cubs, he did Lucas Johnson's knee surgery, so this guy is a pretty prominent doctor, so gave him the thumbs up, which he had already, this was kind of that formality type thing, but he's officially back on the football field at Robert Morris come Monday, so, I know how tough, when you watch, we watch these athletes, and we, as fans, you hear a report, guy gets an injury, a month later he gets his surgery, and then you kind of forget about him, and then he comes back, but you don't get to see what they actually have to go through, and knowing what he went through from August of last year until today, August 1, pretty intense, and as a dad, a lot of times as fans, we're worried about, can he come back, what kind of stats will this guy have. My thing is just to know what he went through to get back.
The rehabilitation on it.
And it's not just the physical, it's the mental.
Right.
And I'm just proud that he's made it back. So Jameer Stovall, congratulations.
Here.
Getting back on the field.
I was just going to say, rehab sucks for an ACL repair, which, and not to hijack, your son and all that stuff, but that makes what Adrian Peterson did so impressive.
It is. It is.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4. We'll lace them up and do it again next week. I'll be sure to tune in. Michael?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Joseph?
If I was a ballerina, I'd love to be in a tutu.
I'm gonna take up ballerina for sure.
You could never get on your toes like that.
I'm not planning on getting on my toes.
I don't want to see him in a tutu either.
Well, remember what he told us, if you come to his house, he may not even have on clothes.